welcome to another episode of the podcast. Another one that we're super excited to do because we have the pleasure of knowing our guest for more than 2 weeks. I think Jen might be considered like my second mom. So I'm super excited to welcome Jen Fessler onto the show, who I've known as basically my second mom down the street for my entire life, but who has also done a ton of other things, including founded her own shoe company, which we'll talk about, and then is on this season of Real Housewives of New Jersey. Jen, thanks for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited. Jess, I think if my memory serves me, you may have called Steve Prine your second dad.
It's just you two. It's just you two. Okay. I can't hold that. I can't say anyone else.
I'm just making sure because I love when you refer to me as your second mom.
Yeah, I think I used both up too early now, so I can't get people on the show anymore and pitch that to them anymore.
I think Jen has reserved status on that one, to be honest.
Thank you, Bri.
Well, I'm super excited because I'm a secret fan of the Housewives. Actually, I'm super excited because I'm a huge fan of Jen Fessler. And I feel like Jen Fessler deserves a forum outside of that for people who don't know her for the last 25 years. And, Jesse isn't 25 years old, so he has known her since birth. So we have a pretty good, insight into the real Jen Fessler. And I think there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about here. And to be honest with you, she's our first female guest. So I'm so excited to have a beautiful, awesome woman on our show.
Thanks, you guys.
At what point did you decide I want to be a New Jersey housewife?
Oh, Brian, my whole life I've been dreaming of being a New Jersey housewife. That is not true. That is tongue in cheek.
We're going to get that clip.
Oh, God. I will tell you that it's not something that I dreamed of. Although I feel like I had an entrepreneurial spirit, I didn't dream of being a CEO, right? These are not dreams that I had consciously. Growing up, I went to a performing arts high school, and you guys know me well enough, but I'll share with your viewers that I like to be the center of attention.
No.
You? No way.
So I'm going to call that, though, just to be a little kinder to myself, I like being on stage. And I make people laugh. And I'm talking about, before Housewives, just in social settings. And I'm kind of known to be the goofball, right? So, and I love that part of my personality. And so I think that I probably always dreamt not of being a housewife, but of being, having a bigger audience than just my friends and family.
We weren't exciting enough, Jen?
I'm a little hurt.
She needed to upgrade past us, Dad.
We were practice.
I felt like you guys just didn't get my joke. You weren't quick enough for me. I needed a bigger audience. And also, you all are so funny that I felt there was like competition.
Oh, yeah, totally. We're just hilarious.
I think what people don't know about Jennifer, who are Housewives fans, is that she can take shit like the best. I mean, she can give shit like the best of them. But boy, she's got a pretty thick skin based on the majority of women that I have been around and met in my lifetime. You can pretty much give it pretty significantly to Jen, and she will give it right back to you.
I actually enjoy it. I don't know that you've ever given me too much shit, Jess, but your father and some of our couple friends really can make a night out of just teasing me.
You got some good dirt on my dad?
I do. I mean, is that for now? I mean, we could definitely delve into that.
This is about Jen.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah, separate episode on the hit piece on Brian K.
That's right. I'm in that one, please. So, so I really do enjoy making people laugh. If you know Housewives, the show is not necessarily known for making people laugh. So let me say that. But there is, in the Bravo universe, there's a big audience for these shows and specifically for Housewives.
Why do you think that is, Jennifer? Like, talk to me.
Well, so how about this? I was a fan long before I was on the cast. And I think it's like a lot of entertainment, right? A lot of TV, a lot of movies. It takes that really, really good programming takes you outside of yourself, right? Outside of your problems, outside of your day to day. In the case of reality TV, I don't know that I can tell you the absolute sum, but I'm sure there have been many, many theses written about the phenomenon that is reality TV. But I can only say to you that as a viewer, it is, it can be sometimes mind numbing, fascinating. You get to feel like you are part of, somebody's family, friendship circle. And in a way you are, reality TV though is different than scripted TV because even the cast doesn't know what's coming. And, as a cast member, you're discovering things about your other cast members, about yourself. But it's fascinating to watch. And I don't like to subscribe to the idea that people like to see the downfall of what they consider privileged women, right? I hope that's not it. But I think there's always, in reality television, there's a protagonist and there's an antagonist, and there's also, you're drawn to, certain women just because you are, let's say, their personalities, or you don't like certain women because you think they're obnoxious. And you do get to see the ups and the downs. And when you're, turned off by somebody on the cast and you get to see that you get to see them sort of, schooled. I hate to say it, but I really do. But there's something satisfying about that. This is not the part of myself that I'm the most proud of. This is not my best self. So let me say that.
I mean, I don't think there's any judgment, Jen. At the end of the day, I'm most curious, and I think other people would be curious. Like, what? So you had like a beautiful life up to New Jersey Housewives,
And a private one.
very private.
Like, what led you to say, I'm willing to give up the privacy to go do this?
Well, let me first say that that decision was not an easy one because of just people like your father and a lot of friends and family members that love me that were worried also about, that piece of it. And really, were very adamant that this is something that I shouldn't do. Brian, I shouldn't say that.
I don't think I said that to you. I think I was kind of neutral.
Well, you always want from me what I want. So let's say that. But maybe you were apprehensive, maybe not as much as some of our other friends. Fair, because you are you, and it wouldn't be like you to push your agenda on me. But, it was very scary for the reasons that you just mentioned, Jess. The thought of losing privacy. But I think that happens, yes, more in reality TV. But becoming somebody famous, well-known, there's always that part of it. People want more of you. And so you see celebrities complaining about it all the time in terms of paparazzi. They want to do their job. They want to get on stage. They want to, practice their craft. And then they want to be left alone. But that's not the way it works. There are some that love the celebrity. I think that I love part of it as well. Not that I'm a celebrity. I'm not, let me get a hold of myself.
I think you're a celebrity in yourself, Jen.
Biased. You're a little biased, Jess.
Did the family aspect weigh heavy on you? On like, you're not opening the door just on you, but it's your whole family is losing a sense of privacy.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yes. So, traditionally, Jersey Housewives has been a show about family, but it's been about little kids, about you've watched them grow up, these kids that you get to know, and then it's exciting because you get to, watch them sort of through the years and their progression and their adventures. In my case, because I was 53 when I started the Housewives, there were no little kids around. Not only that, my kids really didn't want to be involved anyway. So actually, I think they both thought, not anymore, but it was just the most embarrassing thing that they'd ever heard. But both of them were wonderful and supportive and said, Mom, do you, this is your life. And we want you to make these choices not based on, how we feel, but we don't want to be part of it, which I thought was fair.
What was the single biggest fear that you had surrounding becoming a housewife?
There were a few. So you guys know this, but my husband is a corporate attorney.
He's my corporate attorney.
A very successful corporate attorney.
We're Jeff fans.
So, but like going to Housewives is not going to pay my mortgage, right? Although the money, it could be very lucrative as the years go on. So, really sort of taking into account that our privacy could be compromised. And Jeff does a lot of work from home. Well, he works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so he can't always be at the office. Sometimes he has to work from the bed. I mean, he's just always working, and to sort of be careful to not compromise his clients. And not only that, it's a goofy show at times. And that side of Jeff's not really a goofy guy, but to put him in a situation that was silly and goofy and, potentially not dignified, that was a little scary for us. But, we had so many discussions about it and about, the fact that he wasn't going to be able to partake in a lot of what went on. He was probably less nervous about it than I was, interestingly enough.
Was that a real thing, though, that needed to get, like, if you're going and working at a top law firm and you're a partner there and you're like, hey, my wife's going to be on Housewives and I'm going to be on Housewives, like, was that a thing that needed to get worked through?
Yeah, he definitely went to his partners to talk about it before we signed on. And interestingly enough, a lot of them were fans, but they know Jeff. So for instance, when you're signing your life away to do the Housewives, the contract, it's vast, and there's a lot of privacy that you're giving up, but there were lines that we drew from the beginning. For instance, nothing could be microphoned in our home. Well, certainly never Jeff's area where he works, his office, but also really when he was home working. So there would be no client conversations, even in the house, even if they weren't going to be heard at all, period, full stop, right? So they had to also agree, because the family, again, is very important, specifically in New Jersey, in the New Jersey franchise of Housewives. So they had to agree that Jeff wouldn't be present in any situation that was going to compromise him and his reputation. And, he didn't do a lot of scenes that, that were great for the other guys to do. A lot of the other guys are, in fact, entrepreneurs, and they answer to themselves, right? They're their own boss. And in fact, I think the show has probably helped their businesses to a certain extent, depending upon who you ask. But it was a different scenario. Jeff is part of, a partnership and a firm. So we had, very serious discussions about that.
Jennifer, what did you find? Like, okay, I totally understand the apprehension. What did you find once you started the show? And like, what was the reality of what you experienced on the show?
I was very apprehensive. I was also excited, obviously. But the reality of it was really fun. So, the show is known for drama. And I wasn't pulled in too much to the drama. This has been my first season doing it. I hope not my last, who knows. But I was able to be sort of the comic relief. Now, I wasn't a housewife. It's called a friend of a housewife. So it wasn't as much, my role wasn't as much, my personal story. I got to talk about F.Major, which was so great. And some stuff going on with me, my background, a little bit about my family, my upbringing, but not as much as if I had had the title housewife. So it wasn't, I didn't expect it to be the joy that it was. It's not always a joy. I can't lie to you.
How does one get the coveted title housewife?
It's a really good question. I think it probably depends who you ask. You may ask a housewife who would say you have to be the most interesting and the most beautiful and the most intelligent.
Well, then for sure you should have been a housewife.
Thank you. I think you're also a little biased, Bri. But, I think that each franchise is structured differently, right? The producers have a direction that they want it to go. And so the idea that also Jersey, you get to see these little kids grow up and you get to see so many of, the relationships, the family relationships, the marriages. I couldn't offer that as much. So, is that the only reason? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'd gone through the first half of the season not knowing if I'd be a housewife or not, or a friend of. And then they told me, it's funny because when they told me, Jen, we're going to make you a friend of, I was crushed. Now, what's interesting about that is going in, I said to the people that I love, I'm going in and I just want to be a friend of. I don't want to have to, you know, I don't want to give up that much privacy. I don't want to be part of the drama. But when I was told, okay, you are in fact going to be a friend of, my ego was crushed. And I just couldn't believe it. How could you not want me? And it's interesting because, so, well, I quit, and all the other BS that comes along with ego. And I stepped back from it. It really didn't take long, and talked to some of my friends who said to me, are you crazy? This is a beautiful opportunity for you. And so what? Maybe next season you will dive in. But this is your first season to get your feet wet. That's what you should be doing. Just get your feet wet and see how it feels. And it turned out to be the greatest thing for me. That's not to say that I don't want more, who knows. But it was a really good position for me to be in. But like everything else in life, my ego led for the first part of that decision.
So, Jen, being that you are an adult, and we always talk about kids and the social media influence on people's psyches, particularly young women. What influence has social media had on you ever since becoming a housewife, and how tied to people saying positive or negative things do you feel? And how does that affect your personality, your emotions, etc.?
Especially because you now have 15,000 new people following you a month and you're at 70,000 followers. Like, where does that come into your head?
You say that, and I'm like, say what? It's crazy. So, social media is a scary place to live. And specifically, I think for people, women like the housewives, and it can be really, really vicious. And you have to have a thick skin if you're going to read what's written about you, because no matter who you are and how charming and how sweet, if you're involved with the housewives, you're going to have haters, right? So you have to go into it, first of all, being aware of that. It's still daunting. Like the first time or a few times that I got negative feedback on social media, I was like crushed, not so much with aspects of myself, like for instance, my physicality, like, I got a lot of, she looks like a man. And I thought that was funny. I was really not bothered by that. I don't have a lot of issues around, it's not true. I have plenty of issues around my appearance, but I just don't feel like I look like a man. So, that sort of slid off pretty easily. But, there was a lot of like, she tries too hard, which for me is so insulting. And you guys know I'm cuckoo. I'm like, I love being kind of crazy town. And it's not something that I necessarily try to be. It's just sort of part of who I am. So that felt, sort of insulting. But it gets much worse than that. There is, social media can be vicious. And again, I wasn't a housewife this past season and didn't get as much negative attention on social media. I actually got a lot of really nice positive feedback, which also can be dangerous, right? That feeds your ego. And by the way, that never lasts. If you're going to stay on reality TV, expect that the audience is fickle and you are not going to always be loved, as time goes on. At least I haven't seen that happen, really. But I managed it after a while by staying off of certain aspects of social media, certain, certain platforms. I don't go on Twitter. Not never, but I barely go on Twitter. Now I have a husband who does. So he reports in if there's something fabulous to say. But Twitter is, for the housewives, like a very scary place to be. Of course, I'm on Instagram. And actually, it's funny because you would think that I would be drawn to Facebook over Instagram. But being on the show, my focus is really not as much on Facebook. I'm missing birthdays left and right because that's the only way I remembered anyone's birthday was Facebook. And it could be really addictive, which I think is dangerous. And I can lose hours and hours to Instagram, but I also can put it down and put it away for periods of time when I think it's getting out of control. And it's not an easy thing to do, believe me. You know, it's at any given time you could see things that are being written about you that are fabulous, and you eat that up, right? And it feeds into your ego until you get slammed, and then the negative stuff feeds into your ego. My therapist says that the place you want to be all the time, but I use this in terms of my being on reality television. So, right, if this is the scale of ego, right? And down here is where I'm a piece of shit, I'm nothing, I'm less than. And up here is, I'm better than, I'm funnier than, I'm quicker than, I'm prettier than, right? So you want to be here, not even in the middle. You want to be like where dignity lives. And you want to be in a place where you're not at the top, you're not at the bottom. And social media can fuel, it can fuel the feeling that you're at the top, and it can fuel the feeling that you're at the bottom. I'm better than, I'm less than. So that's what gets really, really scary about it when you become kind of a public person. And you have to be strong enough to, remember who you are and that you're not better than and you're not worse than. But that sort of visual for me has been really, really helpful.
Can we take a moment and also talk about the impact that, like, being on a media like that's television, where it's physical, right? It's not radio. And so, what impact does that have on your need for looking perfect and appearance? And it appears that many of the housewives choose to improve upon their existing appearances utilizing cosmetic surgery. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yes, and improve upon, that really depends on who you ask. I think there are a lot of people that think they don't improve upon their appearance with plastic surgery. I feel like I have. So there's a lot of pressure, right, to look good when you're on television, unless you don't have that, sort of drive within yourself. But for me, there was a lot of pressure and a lot of beautiful women that are on The Housewives. And so, it's knowing that you're going to be judged, right? Your physical appearance by so many people is very scary, very daunting. You want to look the best. I spent a lot of money and a lot of time thinking about what to wear, who's doing my makeup, who's doing my hair. All of that costs money. And, the clothes, the glam. So, I was more critical of myself than I would have been, of course, if I hadn't signed up for the show. So critical of my physical appearance. Just seeing yourself on television is, I feel like it is just a recipe for critiquing your looks, your face, your body. And so as you two know, and if people know me from the show, they probably know just by looking at me, I have altered some things, right? So I've had facelift, I had a nose job, it happened really quickly, and I lost about 20 pounds. So you guys may not know this, but there's something called the reunion. After you're done filming, the audience sees all the episodes, and then there's a reunion, all the housewives coming back together. And that was one of, the questions that Andy Cohen, the host, had for me, like, wow, Jen Fessler, you look different. What happened? And I actually said to him, listen, I don't know if I'm going to be asked back. I got one shot here to do this, one season, and to see myself on TV, and then to continue to and feel good about. Wait, I should tell you guys, by the way, that I didn't just start wanting a facelift because of the show. I've been wanting a facelift for a few years now, and I have been, to more than one, more than two, more than three plastic surgeons, interviewing them. And this is, again, before I started filming the show, before I even had an idea that I would become a housewife or a friend of a housewife of New Jersey. But being on the show made it, in my mind, that much more pressing and also that much more exciting. So I will tell you that unlike a lot of people I know, I'm a huge fan for myself of plastic surgery. I'm not scared of it. I have no fear of going under the knife. It's exciting for me. There's a lot of fear for a lot of women around it, of course, logically, right? But for whatever reason, I am vain enough that my priority is, to look good, to look better. And, truth be told, I was able to do what I've been wanting to do, and I think that it happened more quickly, and it also, it helped in terms of like who I knew. So, having a certain amount of followers or celebrity, doctors, have more of an inkling to want to work with you, because I am an open book, sometimes to a fault, a lot of times to a fault, but I was willing to, post and talk about in interviews and, in podcasts, and really be open not only about my surgeries, but about the doctors who did them. And I say the word Sam Risk, R-I-Z-K, in almost every interview, because I'm so thrilled with the results of my facelift, and I'm so grateful, and I, want to promote him.
I have a question that you probably don't get asked a lot. So after doing work, do you feel different on the inside?
Great question, and I don't get asked that. I don't think I've ever been asked that, Brian. Look at you go. Yeah, I don't feel, I'm an anxious person. It didn't take away my anxiety. I'm a fun person. I'm no more fun now than I was. I'm a person who loves to laugh. Like, I have a certain set of values. None of that changed. But I feel like there's a confidence level, for whatever that's worth, right? I used to take pictures, and I had to position myself in a way, head to the left, chin down, trying to hide, my, what are they called? Jowls, and the sagging in my neck. And I know how vain I sound, but I think a lot of women can relate to this. So I'd have to chin down, cover my gums, and I'm able to now just smile for the camera, and I very rarely even ask to see the picture and afterwards, which was a huge thing, right? Don't post without my seeing it. And by the way, I don't always look great, but it's I have an ease about me and about my face and my physicality that I may have maybe in my 20s, but have not had for a long time. So, intrinsically who I am, I don't think that I've changed. But there are aspects of, self-confidence, and it's fun to feel good about yourself.
Yeah, to me, that sounds net positive.
Yeah.
Very much like somebody who might have a physique transformation, and
Right.
maybe they didn't like to take their shirt off, and then suddenly they're very comfortable walking around with their shirt off at a beach.
I mean, you guys through the years, you're both buff and with these gorgeous physiques, but I've seen your physiques change.
Oh, you've seen fat Jesse. Don't pretend you didn't. That was like core, like 13 to 16.
I had a dad bod like there was 25 years. I mean,
No, Dad, you can't pull that shit. You did not.
Well, Brian, when you were young, maybe really young, I don't know, but Jesse, I don't like the way you're speaking about that boy that I love, so just stop it right now.
look, everybody has their Ben Stiller moment from Something About Mary, like when he was dating Cameron Diaz, where you just feel super duper awkward.
You're bringing up Ben Stiller for a reason, because you are Ben Stiller's adorable, but you are the gorgeous version of Ben Stiller.
Well, I love you and thank you, but my reason for bringing it up is like, there's a sense of awkwardness that many men go through before hitting puberty and, getting muscles and whatnot.
You saw it for sure.
I mean, listen, Jess, you're always a superstar, right? And even when you were a chubbier, or chubby, you're not chubby anymore, but a chubby little boy, you had the inner fortitude to do such amazing things. And I mean, I know you guys know what I'm talking about, and I'm sure your listeners do too. But even with the insecurity that maybe you had physically, you had such inner strength to do things that so few at your age.
Oh, I was also fucked up. Don't you worry. But yeah, it was a nice combo.
Aren't we all? So
Anyone who says they're not is lying.
Jennifer, the other night, I think maybe it was a bar mitzvah. I was having that conversation. I was like, someone mentioned feeling like very insecure, and I was like, take a look around. Every single person in this room is completely fucked up. Some
100%.
some are better pretending they're not than others, and some may be better functioning, but everybody in the room's fucked up.
I'm the first to raise my hand. And listen, I don't know, and I don't know whether or not you guys are in therapy.
I am.
Okay, well, I am too, and
I just came back from 7 days off the grid at a therapy thing.
I know, and I think that that's something we can talk about.
I think it's awesome. I honestly, I mean, I haven't gone to therapy recently, but I've been in a form of self-actualization and self-development my
No, you
entire
have.
adult life.
He just reads his fucking Buddha books, and then that's
I
his
know.
version of therapy.
Listen, nobody I think is more devoted to figuring out his own, sense of self and spirituality and than your father.
Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome. But I will tell you that, I was plagued with anxiety and I was a rampant hypochondriac in my 20s, and I had really, really serious OCD. Not funny. It wasn't funny. It was brutal. And so not just therapy, but medication have both served me so well. And I'm still fucked up, but the levels of fucked upness that have changed. And I attribute that really to therapy, even way more than, Prozac. But, and I also attribute that to aging, to getting older, although that's not always the case for everyone. But it's true. I am part of the room, and I am part of the room that is fucked up and insecure. I have really good moments. I have really bad moments. I try to live somewhere in the middle.
The one difference that I have perceived about both of you guys is that you're both so freaking lovable. And, you can be a lot of things, including fucked up. But if you have a warm heart and a welcoming disposition and you're lovable, like it makes up for so many things and it creates a community of people around you who are rooting for you. And I think that makes life livable.
I love you. You know that. And you are one of the most lovable people I know as well. I'm not just saying that.
Thank you.
I will say this to you, and Jess, let's see if you agree with this, and Brian. And I said it, I just mentioned it just a bit ago, but I am pretty much, not about everything, but I'm an open book, right? Like I'll tell you right now, you want to know how many milligrams of Prozac I'm on, just ask. But I feel like that has helped me connect with people. In terms of being lovable, I find that when I'm open, whoever I'm with or whoever I'm talking to or being open with, they are also open. And as a result, you connect with people, right?
Yes.
In a way that you wouldn't otherwise. And I think that is, in large part, why I make friends easily. And Jesse, I think that you're like that as well.
That was a big one for me because it was like, otherwise you're living this mask where you're living two realities. Like you're living your life of what you want people to think, and then you're living your actual life. And the second you have the realization that you're like, I'm just me, and wide open on that, number one, you get happier. Number two, other people open up. And number three, I think it unlocks a lot of mental space because you're not putting all of that time and effort into this fake alternative universe. It's just you.
Yeah, I agree with you absolutely, completely. And, to have sort of a humanity about you and to acknowledge the fact that, you're fucked up or whatever. Maybe that's not.
No, I'm fucked up for sure. We're all fucked up.
The name of this podcast is Unpolished Gems for a reason.
Okay. And I am an unpolished gem, yeah, as we all are. But I think that everyone wants to connect, and it's so much easier to connect with someone who doesn't have a facade, who's not putting on a show.
That was my biggest realization from this thing off the grid. It's like you realize that, number one, no matter what you are in life, whether it's a Fortune 500 CEO, a celebrity, a stay-at-home parent, everybody has their own shit, and the thing you'd guess their shit is never the thing they're dealing with. And that's the most fascinating part. Like, everyone's got stuff, and you would never know. And that I find so interesting.
Absolutely true.
I'll refer to this guy, Dan Sullivan, a lot, but in Strategic, he refers to it as front stage and backstage. And the sad part for so many people is they're living through this front stage life, a performance, a social media profile, and their backstage is very sad. And the minute you allow people in and you put the curtain open and let them into the inside, the backstage side, there's a humanity to it, and there's a shared, compassion that you can have for another person's, because life's tough. It's not always freaking easy, and the older you get, the tougher it is. So, man, the people who beat their chests and tell you how great they are, like, it's sad for them because they're shutting people out.
I think that it's interesting on Housewives. You guys know this. I mean, a lot of my humor is self-deprecating, but I talked one of the first episodes. I talked about being, therapy and Prozac. But I think, and I talked a lot about, they called me Messy Fessler. Messy Fessy, my last name is Fessler. So, which I love, right? Because I am messy, and I would tell you at any given moment I'm a hot mess. But I think I don't want to be presumptuous that a lot of the fans of the show connected with me because of that, right? I wasn't going into this like, trying to be I'm everything, and I am together, and I am
Somebody you're not.
yeah, yeah. I think that worked for me. I don't, and it's funny because I've heard it said that like housewives after, let's say, their first season, when they get the feedback from social media, then they twist and turn to try to become what the social media wants, right? So to try to become more dramatic, less dramatic. I don't know, like a lot of I guess we were talking about plastic surgery and altering yourself physically. I mean, I did do that, but again, I wanted that before the show. I didn't do that because, people were joking that I looked like a man. I just couldn't look at my jowls anymore. But anyway, I think it was key and it is key on TV and for housewives to continue no matter what to be authentic. And that word gets so overused.
You know what's amazing, Jennifer? Your plastic surgeon, the person you named earlier, I don't remember his name.
Sam Risk.
He did the thing that you're talking about with your physicality, in my opinion, because he did the magic that I think everybody would want if they were going to do something cosmetic. He just amplified your inherent beauty and who you already are. Like, he didn't make you look different. You don't look like a caricature. You look like Jen Fessler to me, but the best version of Jen Fessler. So he's a maestro as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with you. And I don't mean to be sort of, patting my own back, but I did pick him. But mainly I'm bragging about him because he is amazing at what he does. And like most women, my biggest fear was that I was going to come out and be, a plastic version of myself. So although I trusted him once I met him and I felt confident that I wouldn't, become that. But in terms of like being true to yourself and authentic to yourself, and also even owning the plastic surgery piece of this, right? Like, I couldn't wait to talk about it on social media, off social media, in interviews. I wasn't going to pretend like I was, I had a double chin and skin hanging, and magically they disappeared. And even if you didn't notice necessarily, even if I look like a better version of myself, I wanted to share it. Let's also mention that I lost this weight, and I spoke about almost immediately, if not, well, immediately when asked, I did it using semaglutide, right? Very controversial issue. We're talking about, I'm sure you guys know, but Ozempic, Wegovy, and that whole family of drugs, and there's a lot of controversy around it. Instead of denying it, I owned it, and I got backlash for it, and that's okay. I feel about it a way that somebody else might not, and I am pro those drugs. But that opened a discussion also, and it opened up an avenue for social media. I got so many DMs about it, right? And did you have this side effect? Were you nervous about this? And also angry ones, There was this whole mindset of, you're taking a drug that's prescribed not for type 1 diabetes. I always like to clarify that. My daughter has type 1 and she couldn't take any of those drugs. It's a different thing. But for type 2 diabetes. And before I went into it, I did do my research and found out that there was not a shortage of what I was taking. It was actually Ozempic, the pens that are, that give you the medication. But anyway, there was a lot about that, like you're taking medication from my grandfather. And so I had researched it enough. I would have, if I didn't believe that I wasn't, I would have felt, really, really bad about it. And so but there still is a lot of controversy around it. One of my castmates has suffered with an eating disorder, for years and years, and she's very against it. She thinks that it's going to contribute to eating disorders, and once you get off the medication and you can't stay thin, that's a mind fuck right there. And so anyway, I bring it up because I was never going to be like, oh, I magically lost 20 pounds and I just cut my portions in half. I've been trying to do that my whole life. It hasn't worked. And not that I've been obese in my life, but I wasn't obese on the show, but I was over 20 pounds heavier.
Yeah, no, I respect it deeply, Jen, because there's many guys on performance enhancing drugs.
And they won't say it.
It's very obvious. It's obvious to me as a dude, but I'm not calling them out. And again, people, especially guys with male egos, they don't understand how much deeper you can bond with another dude if you just cut the bullshit.
Honest.
Yeah, just honesty. Stop the peacocking.
Before we wrap, because I know we're coming up on time, what's the one thing that you wish everybody that watched the show, what's the one thing you wish that the millions who watched knew about you that they don't?
Jess, we're going to need more time for that. I mean, what do I wish they knew about me that they don't? You got to give me a second because it's like a really, really interesting question. Because
I'm giving a tough one.
No, but the goal is to let
that they know everything. That's why,
know things about you. What do I wish that they knew? I don't know. I have opened myself up, but I certainly, there are things still that I am in my life that I'm embarrassed by, that I regret. I'm not, even though I am really, really open, and again, I am in real life too, there's a limit to that. I think everybody has that, like things, deep inside me that I'm not only insecure about, but ashamed about. I always say, because in our marriage, for instance, I was very open and we discussed it first about the fact that Jeff and I were separated. There was infidelity in our marriage, and went on the show figuring that it would come out because it's that type of show, but also wanting to say it, not just say it first, but to say it, to share it, because I don't have shame in that game. Like, that was a time in our lives when, we were struggling, and the proverbial 7-year itch, because it was 7 years in when, we went through the separation. But I don't have a lot of shame around that. And I don't have a lot of shame around a lot of things. I'm very grateful for that. But of course, I am human, right? So there's stuff. And I don't know, if that's something that I wish people knew about. And they probably do know that about me already, that I have stuff that I don't want. But I represent myself as somebody who is an open book. And I think I am more of an open book than most. But let's not kid ourselves.
I'd like to share something for the audience, especially people who don't know Jennifer. What you might not know about Jennifer before the Housewives is that she is honestly one of the best friends any person could be lucky enough to have. That woman has been by people's side. When you have a tragedy, something difficult, something very, very that you just need the compassion of a friend who can be there with you without judgment. Jen Fessler is Johnny on the spot, and she's just an amazing friend and person. And this is not something you'd get out of the New Jersey Housewives or that you would expect from a character, and yet that is who she is.
Agree. Hard stop.
Chokes me up a little bit. I'm grateful that you guys feel that way. I really am, because there's a village. You guys know we live in a community where we are lucky enough to have created a family of friends, and my friends are the same way. And I don't think that's so common, but non-judgmental. Your mother, Jess, your wife, Brian, Helene, who is one of my very, very best friends in the world, it's the same. I am there for her. I am non-judgmental. It's just all love. And that's what I get from her. And, there is no way to describe how much value there is in that, and how important it is to me, and how different my life would be, without that relationship. But I do really appreciate your saying that. I love people deeply. I try, you know.
You're amazing at it.
Do people know that you had a cat stage? Just to end this off, is that like a public record thing?
You're gonna ruin it. I feel like this is gone beautifully. Really? It's not a stage. I have two ugly black cats that live in my house. They're skeevy. I can't stand them. I was suckered by my kids during COVID. We're gonna foster. They're desperate. And now, of course, they don't live with my kids, which was promised. They live with me and they skulk around. It's freaking Halloween in here. It's gross. But yes, Jesse.
I think that's a beautiful way to end it. Jen, where can people... Obviously, they can watch Housewives on Bravo. Where can they follow you, see what you're up to, all of the above?
Well, let me also plug the shoes for a minute.
Yes, go for it.
If you're interested, the website is
I want a pair personally.
If he walks around with them, I'm here for that.
Jesse. He just doesn't show you. We know he secretly does have a pair. Anyway, so shopfmajor.com is the website. And you can follow me on Instagram at Jen2Ns Fessler.
Jen, this has been a pleasure. Thank you.
I love you guys.
We love you back, Jennifer.
Thank you for this. You guys are doing good work.